not expecting 48-7, although again, 45-3 2 years ago. Last year in East Lansing, it was that ugly putt game. It was the Drew Chrisman show in the second half, pinning Michigan State inside the 3 time and time again. And it was the offense doing little, but the defense certainly shutting out Sparty, shutting them down, as did most defenses in the Big Ten much of last season. Brian Lewerke has had a rough go against the Buckeyes during his brief career. Now he's a junior, I believe. Or is he a senior?
Redshirt junior, I believe.
Redshirt junior. Really good season last 2 years ago. 20 touchdowns, like 8 picks. Had his issues last year. Was banged up with a shoulder issue. Looks to be pretty healthy. Although, man, what an up and down offense. So we expected the offense to have its struggles, but there were disclaimers about injuries in particular last year. Have been looking for a legitimate number one back for a long time. When I think Michigan State football, you guys, I think Mark D'Antonio built this program on great defense, remarkable corner play, the front seven's relentless, linebackers pursuing all over the place, hitting like, Dick Butkus, and then you've got a sturdy quarterback, and you've got a running game. Their running game has been abysmal going back to about the college football playoff year of 2015. They have not developed a running game. They've not had that kind of back, and they used to have 2 or 3 capable good backs. And they've not had that, and now they've got this Eli Collins kid who may be the answer, possibly, but the running game has not been good. Now they've had very up and down play, but at least they've shown some flashes on offense in the most recent one, of course, last week against, that's right, it was Tom Allen's top 20 defense there at Indiana. So they did put up 40 last week, so there's a little bit of life there, you guys, with Sparty putting up some points recently.
I think with the Michigan State players and coaches have come out and said that they're using that blowout as fodder. I feel like you're coming into the shoe at night. That should be all the motivation that you need. This is possibly the East on the line here. They're battling that out. That should really be their only motivation. They haven't scored a touchdown against Ohio State since 2016. All of this should be, it should be enough. They shouldn't have to use a blowout, but it's going to be a bigger challenge for them to climb than I think they're ready for.
I have been confused by this Michigan State offense, but the last 2 weeks they are scoring points, so I think that is makes it more of a concern, obviously. But I don't think they're consistent enough to really. They've scored 31 and 40 the last 2 weeks. I don't see them scoring 31 in this game, and I see kind of Ohio State. Maybe that's about where they are against Michigan State, maybe in that 31 point range. And obviously we'll get to our picks later. I know, but I'm not buying into this Michigan State offense. They're averaging about 4 yards per carry. They've had some decent success with receivers and throwing the ball up and letting them go get it. And Lewerke, if he's healthy, that's great. He can keep plays alive. He can keep it on the zone read, and maybe they need to do some more of that this week. But I'm not sold on the offensive line. They've protected very well, but we'll see how that goes this week. They've had some issues at offensive tackle. They're going to have more this week with Chase Young, obviously, coming after Brian Lewerke and getting to know him very well, I would think. This is Chase Young, who's had a sack in now 7 straight games, I believe, dating back to last year, and leads the nation with 8 sacks right now. And I don't necessarily see that streak stopping against Michigan State. When you're so inconsistent on offense, it's hard for me to expect that Michigan State to play their best against the best defense they've seen.
How good is Michigan State, Tony? What's going to be the end result of this team? Did you have a preseason prognostication? Have they done anything to alter that? They had one of those bummers against Arizona State where they put up a whopping 7 points.
Yeah, I think if I go back to my preseason tally, they may have been right behind Michigan or right ahead of Michigan for number 2 in my East. But I think they're as good as they ever are. but not as great as they have been. You know, they're not like the 2015 team or whatever that made the playoffs, where they looked a lot better than this. But I think they have the capabilities of beating just about everybody on their schedule. I don't, I'm not going to say they can't do that this week, because I've seen stranger things involving these two teams. But it would surprise me greatly if they came into Ohio State and had enough offense and enough defense to get this done. And like I said, it would take some turnovers from Ohio State, which is something, Ohio State's not turning the ball over. They're not committing penalties. If they're not going to beat themselves, who in the Big Ten is going to beat them? Who? Wisconsin? I don't know. I think if Ohio State stays clean, stays fundamental, keeps with their technique at every position, and just lets their talent win out, and don't provide help for the opponents like Michigan State. If they don't help Michigan State, then Michigan State, I don't see it. And how good are they? I think they could win 9-10 games this year, but they're going to have to play better now moving forward if they're going to have 2 losses coming out after this week.
Claire, what do you think about Michigan State? What do you think about the state of the Big Ten? I think it's a very deep conference, and I what bothers me from a Big Ten standpoint is that there just weren't the quality of non-conference games to prove that. We've got Michigan, Notre Dame on the board later in the season, and based on what we've seen of the Wolverines and based on what we saw out of the Irish at Georgia, that may not be favorable for the Big Ten. But otherwise, Penn State, Wisconsin, they look like the 2 challengers right now.
And the Big Ten right now has just as many undefeated teams as the SEC does right now.
No, it can't be.
Yeah. What? Say what? Not the mighty SEC. And the problem is that's all going to be cannibalized on both sides. And I think I saw a Mark Rogers video about a 3 SEC possible college football playoff. So
I didn't make that statement.
Mark, I can't believe it.
I do have guests on my show. I give them freedom.
Your show. I haven't watched that one yet. But yeah, I'm right around where Tony is. I think what we talked about early, preseason stuff with all 5 of us on here, is talking about the adaptability of Michigan State and Michigan State getting better throughout the season. I just don't know if those increments are going to be enough to overcome this kind of challenge at night in the shoe against a Buckeye team that really is peaking right now and is getting better every week. Justin Fields is spending more time on campus, learning more offense. They're, knock on wood, fairly healthy on both sides of the ball. And it's difficult at this time in the season, like you mentioned, to compare really any conference until they get into real conference play, like Ohio State did last Saturday.
I compare them, Claire. I've got my conference rankings video out. I still compare them.
Clemson fans are not going to want to bring up that topic after their showing last Saturday. Barely squeaking one out. And there are experts that are still ranking Clemson top 5, top 3, top 2. So it's like you say in your top 25 that makes sense about, who have you played and what have you done for me lately. I'm slightly pessimistic when it comes to just the Big Ten in general and what they're going to be able to do kind of postseason is the only way to really measure that against any other conference.
Claire, if you want to be some level of spokesperson, marketing, sales on the side.
For MarkRogersTV.
Yes.
Or for the Big Ten.
That was beautiful. Oh, you weave like 3 different videos and
top 25 that makes sense.
It was
and,
beautiful.
It's good clickbait. The 3 SEC college football playoff. And it made me angry just thinking about it.
I can't give you any grief for that, Mark, because a couple weeks ago I wrote a piece asking if the playoffs would feature 5 SEC teams this year. So just to bypass. Because I know people are talking about 3. I'm going to bypass the move to 4. I'm going straight to 5. because
maybe the committee comes back on Selection Sunday and they come out and say, we're going to have to do something unprecedented here because we just have such a dilemma that we're going to have to go to a 5-team playoff.
Exactly.
Georgia, Alabama, LSU, Auburn, Florida. There you go. There's your 5-team playoff.
And
you guys got to be rooting for Joe Burrow, though. That's pretty amazing what's happening down in LSU.
It's cool.
It's pretty awesome to see.
No, and he was always. I like to see the fire that he brings to LSU, to that offense, to that entire team. He's cocky, he's arrogant, but he's just got that fire that everybody loves him, even still at Ohio State.
Yeah,
his old teammates still love him. I saw Johnny Dixon, a receiver for last year's team who came in 2014. He said he couldn't. There's those tweets of who's your Heisman pick, and Justin Fields and Joe Burrow were 2 of the 4 picks, and he's like, well, I can't choose either. I can't choose because 2 of my guys are on this, so I can't pick one. They still love Joe Burrow. Ryan Day still loves Joe Burrow. Urban Meyer, when you see him on the Fox show, he could go on and on about Joe Burrow. And there's a reason when a guy has that kind of lasting impact on people, it says a lot about what he's done in the time he was there. And it says a lot that nobody at Ohio State holds any ill will for him leaving and being a part of the situation that they had at quarterback in the winter and after the season when everybody's bailing. Joe Burrow was part of that, and he left earlier, obviously, but he there's no concern or no anger his way for putting Ohio State in a situation that almost didn't turn out well. And it's a testament to him as just a guy, basically.